smooth. This being the automatic version, I will cover the gearbox in a second. Driving the car, driving a Mark 1 Focus should be a completely pleasurable experience. There shouldn't be, everything should be precise, everything. The steering, the weight and the feel of the car in front of you, it should be pointy. It should not feel loose or wandering whatsoever. If there is any clunks from the front of the car, it's usually drop links. Usually, sometimes it can be ball joints. The drive should be nice, precise steering, direct steering. Shouldn't feel clunky or vague in any way. If it is vague, then it's the steering rack. They usually skip a tooth if that's going to happen. There shouldn't be any clunks on the front of the car. It should be really nice and smooth and pleasurable and just comfortable. It shouldn't feel uncomfortable, the suspension. It really is decent. Even the ST170 performance base suspension with stiffer dampers, they're fine, you know, they feel absolutely pleasurable whatsoever. Acceleration should be nice and brisk, not too performance orientated in this 1.6, but it should go down the road quite nicely and keep on-road traffic really reasonably well. Here, brakes should be nice and firm as well. If they are spongy, then you need to have a look at your brakes because they should be nice and firm. There's a nice amount of servo assistance as well. If there is any wandering from the car around corners, which I'm going to point out in a second, then it is the train arm bushes. Because before I had mine changed, it used to not quite grip where it's supposed to over the roads. Didn't quite catch on roundabouts. Clunks are usually drop links from the rear as well, or the bolts have come slightly loose and they need tightening up, which can happen. The manual gearbox should feel slick through the gears. The cable gear change was something relatively new on a lot of cars in the 90s, so it wasn't something people were used to back then, and it was kind of being thought of as slightly vague in terms of the rod gear changes that have gone before. But the cable gear changes people kind of enjoyed and got used to be honest with you. Going around roundabouts, it should literally just grip, and everything slides as typically, but the car should not slide. It should grip incredibly nicely, and you never feel like you're out of control. The only thing out of control is everything in the car, as you can hear. The noise level in here also should be pretty subdued. They did skimp on later cars with a lot of sound deafening. My bonnet does not have sound deafening under the bonnet. They did put sound deafening on the floors, but otherwise it's quite a Spartan car. So just take it left here. If you go for a slight kick down in the gearbox. Progress should be nice and steady with the automatic gearbox. It should be nice and smooth through the gears. A little feature of the gearbox is it has accumulators. What they call accumulators, it's actually shock absorbers. They're tiny little pistons that absorb the shock between first, second and neutral drive, between neutral and drive I should say. And the gearbox should be very, very smooth. If it is jerky or harsh, they might need cleaning out and looking at. There is a video of that I've got of how to do that. The car is a little bit on the noisier side of things. That is mainly due to me not having the carpet liners, as I explained before, because of the rust issues that they cause. Unfortunately, there is no aftermarket product that can actually replace that. The idea would be plastic arch liners that, yes, they absorb some of the sound, but they don't necessarily cause the rust that fabric material tends to cause. Really is just a pleasurable driving experience, whether it's at a ridiculous going around the estate at 20-30 miles an hour or driving on the motorway. I would only suggest that the 1.4 and the 1.6 engines may sound a little bit coarse after 65 miles an hour, let's say. That's when the limit of 5 manual gears or 4 automatic gears might be too much. No wonder people bought these in their drones. I reckon a lot of people who bought one of these ones, one of the earlier versions of the Focus, would have probably got rid of it at 3 years old, or maybe even swapped it for a newer one. There have been plenty of people who bought one brand new back in the day who moved on to newer cars and now gone back to them. That's how good they are. And finding a good one is getting more and more difficult. These door mirrors do give good visibility to the back. They do stick out quite a bit, so it is quite common for them to have chunks knocked out of them or broken mirrors. This is such a good car to drive. I keep saying it, but it really, really is. They've carried that DNA into every other Ford ever since. I think this was the first Ford that really did handle anything like the rivals, better than the rivals. And every Ford since then, they've copied this DNA, this driving feeling. Every Ford has this exact same feeling, and that's quite special and not easy to do, particularly when you consider modern cars are quite heavy and they have a lot more emission standards thrown at them.